This is the Peeing Wild Podcast.
Smoking, dude. Reload.
Drop him.
And welcome back to the PM Wild Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls.
Get them close.
Get them close. What's going on, Jeff?
Oh, dude, it is September 1st, Bob.
I know, it's crazy. I did that post today about it being September, and it's hard to believe.
It's here. Believe it. You best believe it.
It's been a minute since at least I've been on. I think last week you did a podcast about muzzleloaders with a fella, right?
Yeah, I sure did. And it was a good one. I drew a muzzleloader elk tag in the state of Idaho. And we had John McAdams on, and it was a pretty fun one. And we talked muzzleloaders and stuff like that. But yeah, we haven't had a podcast like this in a month. We've been slacking this year.
Well, I mean, it is hunting season, family vacations, and just life stuff.
It is, man.
Full-time jobs and families, man. Mm-hmm. Priorities. But we're back in the studio, and we are here for episode 79.
79.
I think we're just going to do a little fall bear update and talk about our plans that are coming up and just what's been going on. Yeah,
we've been out a handful of times now, and definitely not as much as we would have liked to be out by this time of the year.
Not at all. Yeah, it's been a really weird hunting season so far, at least for me.
Yeah, it's September, and we haven't killed a bear yet, which is different, but it happens. That's why they call it hunting. We haven't been out that much, like we said, but I had it started off pretty good. My very first fall bear hunt of the year, I just went out at one of the towns out here and had a bear at 30 yards.
Oh yeah,
right out of the truck.
Have you told that?
I haven't. No, I haven't said anything like that yet. So
it's a great way to start the season.
I know. I went with a couple buddies that have never. It was a buddy of mine and his son. And they've never bear hunted before in their life, never seen a bear. And I just said, let's go walk a logging road. That's how it happens in early August. Just kind of shaking off the dust and see what's going on. And 10 minutes from the truck, we're kind of taking a breather, catching our breath. And we're just tromping up a logging road. And I turn and look at berries, and I'm looking down off the road and looking into the bushes and looking at berries and stuff. And my buddy's like, hey, there's a bear right there. Pick my head up, and he's just staring at us right on this old decommissioned logging road, and it was probably maximum 50 yards, and he was just staring at us straight, looking at us, and I bring the rifle up to my shoulder and engage around, and off he goes. If I just would have been paying attention.
When you first saw the bear, where was your gun? Just at your hip?
In my hands. We're just walking down the logging road. Wasn't expecting to be, that close to out of the truck, and it's 3:30 in the afternoon. It's 95 degrees on August 2nd or 3rd, something like that.
Yeah.
Walking on a logging road, and he's just standing right there in the middle of the road.
Did you have a round chambered?
Nope, I did not.
That's kind of a controversial thing people talk about. I think when you're hunting with buddies, I personally don't like to have one loaded in the chamber.
Exactly.
But I did go out by myself, what was that, last week, and I put one in the chamber just because, I know where that muzzle's going to be. It's not going to be waving anybody.
Yep.
And if I do see a bear like you did, there's a good chance it's going to split when I try jacking around. It's going to hear it.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, so it was looking good. It's like, it's a good way to start the season. There's a bear right there, and so we continued on that evening. Got to the top of a little lookout, looking over a clear cut. Nothing came out, so worked our way down, and then that was really it until our big horseback trip that we talked about for a couple months now, and then Keegan took us up. That was a fun one. First time experiencing horses in the high country. Super beautiful. It's really smoky Saturday though. That Saturday was really smoky.
But back to your first little trip where you went out.
Yeah.
It was 8 years ago now.
Yep.
2013, I did the same thing, and I shot a bear right after work.
Yep.
So it definitely can be done.
On that very road.
The same damn road.
Yep.
And I actually went to that road last week. I was going to go to that. That was my spot A, and there was a vehicle at the gate. It's like, I'll go to spot B, and I did that, and I hiked around for a couple hours. It was really hot, about 3 or 4 in the evening, and didn't see any bear. I saw one pile of old scat, and not much happened, but it felt good to get out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
that's about it. And then the Keegan trip.
Yep. And then the Keegan trip was fun. We saw, I think Jacob was just going over footage, and I think it was 3. I think we can confirm it was 3 bears, not 4.
Okay, after looking at the footage?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what I got. I'm not positive, but that was another good one. Like, we got up in there, I think it was like 7 or 8 miles on horses. We woke up Saturday, kind of slept in a little bit. Not slept in, but we were just glassed from the tent. And then we had breakfast. Keegan made biscuits and gravy, and then we kind of took off on foot, and we did like another, 4.5, 5 miles from camp.
Yeah.
And we ended up glassing 3 bears down in one basin. So from the lookout knob, it kind of looked pretty gnarly to get down in their position, and we're kind of like hemming and hawing, like, oh, dude, we're already 5 miles from the camp, and then camp's another 7 miles from the truck. Like, it's going to be pretty gnarly. But Jacob convinced me to go down there, and you kind of kept your eyes on him up on top. Jacob and I dropped down into position, and as soon as we got down there in range, there was a bear at 411 yards just standing there feeding. And so I laid down and was kind of getting atmospherics and getting the Kestrel all fired up, and I was using your rifle, your Tika, and we have a pretty funny story about this, but
we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So I'm using your rifle. My rifle's at camp. We're just going to take one rifle and go on a little bear hunt, share your rifle. So we get down into position, Jacob and I do, and while we're in transition, you're watching everything, and you could see a chocolate and a black bear, and from your point of view, you could see them?
Yeah, I could.
Did it seem like we got down there pretty quick?
You got down there really fast. I wasn't expecting you to get there that fast. And I was keeping eyes on, there was 3 bears. There was 2 together. It was kind of like a cinnamon and then a black bear. And at first, didn't we think it was a mom and or a cub? Yeah,
we did think that. Yep.
And then later confirmed it was just 2 adult bears kind of just meandering together because they were both decent sized bears.
Yeah, exactly. And the larger black is the one I was going to go after. Did you ever see that one again after we took off?
The single one on the left?
Yeah, that was heading towards the avalanche chutes.
When you left, I could see all 3. And then after you took off, that little single bear, not the little one, but the single bear, it dove into the bushes and never came back out.
That's so wild.
Yeah, they do that though.
They do, man. And that's what I was expecting, to get down there and we were going to see it. Because it was feeding in the wide open for 2 hours while we watched it.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going anywhere.
No.
But did you check wind at all?
Yeah, and it was going up that drainage, up to the avalanche. It was just coming up and out of there.
So most likely didn't catch your wind.
It just got tired of being up and feeding in the heat, I guess, and just probably bedded down.
Yeah.
And that, or it was just feeding in one of those holes, and they had so many berries in there.
Got his fill of berries.
Yep.
I'm going to go lay down in the shade. It's hot because it was very hot out.
Very hot. Yeah, I'm sure you got sunburn up there on that peak.
I did. Yeah. My ankle was starting to hurt a little bit. That's why I decided to stay up top and glass for these guys. Jacob and Jeff went after these bears, and then as I was glassing them, I heard this because you were maybe 800,000 yards away from me, something like that.
Probably.
I could hear this faint squeal. What the hell is that? And I glass over to Jacob, and he's just ripping on this predator call.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought it was fun. He's like, oh, that's what I'm hearing. So I could see Jacob calling for this bear.
Wow.
And then I'm scanning back and forth between, the bears, then Jacob. And, he never presented a shot.
Yeah. So back to when we got down there. We're still, hiking, and we can still get down there. And Jacob, I just hear a... And I know what that means. Kind of like I'm going to freeze. And then I'm expecting that bigger bear, the solo one, was going to be out right in front of us somewhere, super close to us. So I'm I freeze, and I turn my head and I look to the direction where we saw him. And I just see that little chocolate, and it's just feeding in the wide open. And so I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm going to set up. And so I drop down and dump in my backpack, and I'm ranging, and it was 411. And, actually, I did not see the chocolate. This was the jet black. So it's the smaller jet black. It's going in the wide open, feeding broadside to me. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to get down and find a spot for a rifle. And we're in this avalanche chute that's pretty steep. So I'm trying to find somewhere to lay down at.
That's the worst when you're on a hill and you're looking across and your feet are above your head behind you. It's how do you get prone.
How do you get comfortable?
And comfortable.
Yep. And that was our situation. So I kind of like look up ahead of me, and about 25 yards in front of us, there was this, it looked like I could get prone, and it looked like I could in with other rocks, like a larger rock and then like another larger rock, and it looks like I could lay down. So me and Jacob kind of scamper up onto this thing, and I dump my pack and I lay down. I could get prone. Mm-hmm. And while I'm messing around moving rocks and moving, like a rear rest and shit, I look up, and naked eye, I see a chocolate bear. And this is the first time we've seen that thing. And I've been seeing the jet black, and I could see him kind of moving around in the timber, and he'd present a shot, and then he'd go into the timber. And then naked eye, I see the chocolate, and I'm like, Jacob, there's a chocolate. I'm taking it. I don't care how big it is. Like, I want to color.
Oh, you decide right there, I'm shooting it.
I'm going to shoot that chocolate, yeah. And just the sun was hitting him, and I could just see that he's like the color of the bear on the wall behind you. And I'm like, I want that bear. Like, I'm going to shoot that thing. Yeah. You get two. Like, I don't care. I'm going to take a pretty one first.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, I want that bear. And then, so I range 411. I get the Kestrel out, and I'm doing that thing. I get it all dialed. I turn the turret on your rifle scope, and I'm like laying down. And as I'm laying down, he just moves down out of view, and I never see him. So I'm on the rifle scope, and now I'm feeling comfortable. I'm getting all set up, and I see the black bear, and I could see his head, like he's moving, and he's like eating berries. And I'm like, Jacob, I'm on a bear. Is this the better one, or is this the smaller one? What is this? And my crosshairs are now on this bear. Mm-hmm. And it's not perfect. Like, I could see he's got a bush covering his like shoulder, but his head is above all the shrubs, and I could see his head moving. And I was like, he looks kind of small.
So you could punch a bullet through those.
Absolutely. Leaves. I could have punched a bullet through like this little bush that's right in front of him, and I could just see bear moving, and he's doing bear shit, and he's doing this thing.
And Jacob's what I was saying like, today, they never stop moving.
No, they don't.
Hold still.
I know. Just stop. Let me shoot you. And this bear was just maybe a little too small. I don't know what he was, but Jacob said, no, it's too small, big ears. He's like, Jeff, wait, because he knows that there's a bigger jet black and there's a chocolate. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right, man. We're in this situation. I'm going to wait for something I'm going to be jacked on.
So you did have an opportunity.
100%. I could have shot at that bear. Jacob can verify that I was like, Jacob, I'm on it. Like,
400 yards,
411 yards. Yeah, 410-ish yards. I was like, Jacob, I'm on it. And he's like, no, man, just wait. And I was like, yep, you're right. There's a chocolate and a bigger jet black in this very basin that we're at. It's probably 3:30 in the afternoon. We have 4 hours ish. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're right. I'm gonna get off the gun, or else I'm gonna send one. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head. If I just keep looking at this bear,
you're gonna shoot it.
I'm gonna shoot it. So
it's like your Colorado buck.
Exactly, man. So I got off the gun and kind of sat up, and I was like, just gonna wait this one out. The chocolate's gonna come out. We know they're right here. I'm gonna wait for the chocolate, or I'm gonna wait for that bigger jet black. And so Jacob and I decided to hunker down, and Keegan was back at camp, and we had ribeyes and potatoes and carrots and corn and just...
shout out to Keegan Friddle really quick. That guy is one hell of a horseman and a host and a great guy.
Oh my gosh. Please go follow his Instagram. It is a absolute hoot to watch that guy and just follow along. He's posting pictures from his hunt last week with Cantrell, and they had a good one. They killed a bear.
Yeah, nice job, Chris.
Yeah, congratulations to those guys. But anyways, Keegan was back at camp, and we're like, all right, so we don't want to leave at dark and get back to camp at midnight because we still have 4.5 miles to hike. So out of respect and not to keep him up, because he's going to make a good supper for us.
And I was feeling guilty. He was at camp all day by himself.
Exactly, taking care of horses. And I know he says, I don't give a shit. Go hunt. I'll be here taking care of horses. I want you guys to go have fun. But me and Jacob are down there like, all right, we're leaving at 7. That way, if we're going 1 mile an hour, we're at least back by like 11-ish, 10:30, 11.
Yeah.
So Keegan, we could actually hang out around we can't have a fire, but we can hang out around camp and drink some cold. I mean, he packed in bush lights for us.
And Fireball.
Fireball and ribeyes. So we're going to go, we said, we're leaving here at 7 so we can be back at camp at a decent time and hang out with Keegan and drink some beers and have some ribeyes and that kind of thing. So we're leaving at 7. That means we're going to miss like an hour and a half of daylight. And that's probably the best hour and a half of daylight that that we had a chance on those bears. But you had your Zolio, and we were texting you, anything moving, anything going on, you're firing back, no, nothing from up here, and you can see everything in the basin.
Yeah.
And
I never saw what you saw. Could you not see much at all?
No, we couldn't see much at all. We had like little shooting lanes, but if that bigger bear that we saw was coming out to the left, we would have had it was a slam dunk. We could see maybe 150 to 200 yards in front of us was wide open. And then back where those bears were at 410, it was just like tiny shooting window, tiny shooting window, tiny shooting window.
Just a lot of brush and trees.
Yeah, just too much going on in that tiny basin. So Jacob and I sat there. I actually took a little nap on the gun. He was up glassing and just staying on it. I think I ended up falling asleep. But it was like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour sit.
It was
from 3 to 7, and right around like 6:45 or whatever, Jacob's like, I'm just gonna crank on this predator call, see if we can get something up, and perk their head up, and I can, maybe sneak one in or get something awake and active. So he ripped on that predator call for about 15 minutes, and nothing happened, and we decided to pull out and head back to camp. I mean, we did our job. We snuck down in there. Wind was right. We had a chance at a bear, and I decided to not shoot at that smaller one. And thank God that we didn't.
Yeah, the next day we found out something funny about my rifle. But
yeah, so we pulled out, met you at the top. We talked to you like, hey, you never saw anything else? Nothing ever moved?
No. Yeah, and I could glass all the way back behind us to where camp was 5 miles away, and Keegan was wearing that orange marsupial vinyl harness. And I could pick him out like a turd in a punch bowl.
It's crazy.
Just that little pouch just glowed.
Dude, it's wild. So. Sidebar, I'm a big fan of that thing.
Yeah, I like it too.
And my Wolf Gray or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that one yet. The one hanging up there. I like that Wolf Gray one too. I like that a lot. Those two new colors are pretty sick.
Yeah, they are.
Check it out, marsupialgear.com. Anyways, back to that. So we met up with you at the top, and we were just so blown away that from 1 to 3, those bears were completely active, moving around a ton. And then we pussyfooted around too long, maybe by a half hour too long, 20 minutes too long.
Yep.
And we got in a position from 3 to 7 and didn't see him.
It seems like that's more about how it has been. Like bears, they'll just do their thing in the middle of the day in the heat when you least expect it to happen.
Yeah.
And then when it's prime time, they disappear.
I'm tired. I'm full. I've been eating for 9 hours, guys.
Yeah, and it must have been, I don't know, how hot do you think it was up there? 80s?
Yeah, mid-80s, maybe.
Pretty damn warm, and they're just out there in the sunlight getting full. And then
didn't care.
When it's go time, usually what we'd expect, they'd run and hide.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the berries are weird this year too. We were up, what was the elevation
of that hunt?
Would you guess? Yeah.
Oh,
because
62.
They weren't really out in the open meadows. They were kind of down in the timber a little more.
Dude, yeah.
And sporadic. I mean, within like a 2,000 to 3,000 foot elevation change, right?
It was
all
absurd.
Along the trail. I mean, the huckleberries were everywhere.
It was truly
thimbleberries, maybe a little bit of blueberries, but not too many. Mainly just huckleberries.
Yep, I'm going down. I'm looking. I'm here right now. Give me 2 seconds.
But they weren't really out in open meadows like above the alpine where you expect to see bears feeding. For like
those bears were at 53.
Okay.
Our camp was at 54, but the highest we saw berries at that horse camp, remember, that's 58. So all around that ridge, there was berries. They were ripe August 14th, and they were ripe.
They were.
Like the size of quarters.
Yep.
And they were delicious. So August 14th, we had berries ripe up to 58 that we can confirm. And then just a super, we're going to get there, but this last weekend, I went with my wife. We saw one bear. There's no berries. They're gone. Jacob and I were thinking that they didn't even come in this year.
Like nowhere. Whole wall.
That whole wall is non-existent of berries. There's not one. When you first leave the truck and there's that big...
that 90 turn.
Yeah, right there out of the truck, the first 5 minutes, there's berries in the shade. Once you round that corner and you open up into the big, vast, wilderness area.
I bet that big heat wave just had something to do with taking them out early.
That's exactly what we're thinking. Jacob thinks that, and I think he's right. We're just talking out loud at camp that night that they didn't even come in. They're not even going to come in. There's nothing up there to keep bears engaged. There's nothing up there to pull bears out of the bottom basins. That's why they're seeing so many bears down low still. Because that's the only food that's there. In the timber and in the shade, that's where the food is. Up on top, in those basins, those alpine basins, there's non-existent. There's no berries.
Just been getting that constant heat. They can't grow.
Yeah. I think that we probably should have needed a mid-July rain to keep them somewhat alive. I think that just 50 days, 60 days of straight 100-degree heat just killed them. They didn't even come in.
That makes sense.
And I think it does make sense in our brain. I don't know if that is what truly happened, but they're not even green. Like,
well, in that wall where we hunt, where you're talking about, you went with your wife, we usually see berries. It's a huge, 2,000, 2,500 foot elevation wall.
Yes.
That's totally exposed. And you can kind of like see week by week how the berry progression is.
Yep.
And there's zero.
None.
Very weird.
And then all the way around that trail, around over to where we stalked that big giant bear, there was nothing moving on that wall for 10 hours. No bears. And that weekend was like the 28th or something. In 2019, we saw it on August 31st. So it's the same weekend. Nothing was over there. And then Jacob saw one bear. I didn't even get to lay eyes on it, but he was about, a quarter mile away from me, glassing stuff that I couldn't see. And him and Robbie picked up a bear, and it wasn't eating. It was just cruising.
Transitioning through a clear cut.
Yep.
Or a meadow.
A big meadow. Yep. So I don't know, man. It's strange. We're bashing our heads against the wall here. We are thinking we know what we're doing, and we have shit dialed in, and this drought totally threw us for a curveball. Because we weren't expecting this berry dilemma. It's wild. We weren't expecting this. Never experienced something like this where it's 60 days of extreme heat, no moisture, and then in these particular basins there is not a lot of water.
Right.
So it's not like it's still, the soil's going to be moist. There's lots of moisture up there. Snowpack was good. Yes, snowpack was good at this elevation, but it has nothing. That drought just
wiped them out. And this is just our experience. I mean, there may be some guys saying, what are you guys talking about? I've been seeing berries all over. Got a couple bears dead, but just where we go, the berries have been not good. Yeah.
In our good spot, again, back to this Keegan hunt, the berries were, you remember, plentiful. They were ridiculous.
Yeah, in the timber and the shade.
Yes, in that timbered shade stuff all along the trails. We never did go up on the walls to look for ourselves, but down by camp and all that stuff in those meadows, they were
the whole time we were hiking, we just stick our hands out and just grab handfuls of huckleberries and just eat them as we're hiking.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome.
It was amazing.
They're delicious.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of, we got scared too, and we kind of called this. There's so many berries down in this timber.
Why would they come out?
Why would they come out of the timber?
They wouldn't. That'd be stupid.
They don't need to.
Let's go lay in the hot sun and eat.
Exactly.
Well, and there's nothing to eat, so I'm going to stay inside on the couch. And eat.
I'm going to sit in this timber and eat until I want to puke. And there's no reason for me to go expose myself up on these open faces. So all these bears are hanging down low into these timber pockets where they're going to be more concealed for a lot longer of the season, because, and especially if there's berries there's no berries ripe up in the alpine because they got smoked out, burnt out. And that's because they're going to go for the easiest meal. Where if they have to move around a lot in the timber to find berries, then they're going to go up in the alpine where they have to move 10 feet and they can get, just a ton, like your bear last year. That particular meadow, that bear doesn't have to move 10 feet. He can just dice and vacuum in a circle, zero effort put in. Down in the timber, he's going to have to move around and go berry patch to berry patch. But up in the alpine where they're just so thick.
And any animal, wild animal, they're opportunists. They're going to
go for the easiest meal.
Easy picking, low hanging fruit. They're going to grab it.
So right now we're thinking that there's not a ton of alpine activity in our spots, again, like Bob said, because all the food is just down in the timber. They were shaded from the sun, that timber pockets, the sun can't get down. So that long drought didn't have direct exposure to the sun. There's going to be moisture down there longer because it's not getting that sun exposure. So berries in the timber, still ripe, still going to be fine, protected from the UV and the sun. And then the wide open alpine vistas completely burnt out. So there's no food source up for them high.
It might be a good argument to hunt north facing slopes.
Absolutely.
More so than south, because it's getting more sun.
More protected.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyways, we hauled ass back to camp to meet up Keegan.
We got there right at dark, right? Like 9:15, 9:30. We hauled ass. It was like an hour and 50 minutes.
And you were leading, and I was like, oh man, what the hell's gotten into you, Jeff? You're thinking about steaks and bush lights?
Yeah. I was like, if you guys want to go in front of me, take the lead.
I was
Bob's like, fuck
no,
you.
man. I'm struggling keeping up.
But you had your ankle.
But still, you were moving.
Yeah, we were trying to hoof it back.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, we did 4 miles in like an hour and 48 minutes. I think your stopwatch.
I forget the minutes, but yeah, it was pretty damn quick.
Yeah, there was not much elevation, so it sounds fast, but we were just walking basically around a big ridge. But yeah, it was like 4.5 miles.
Right. So when we did get back, Keegan had ribeye steaks, Bush Light, Fireball, corn, and potatoes waiting for us, and we had a big meal. Corn on the cob, and a big old thing of diced up potatoes and onions.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And butter. Oh man, it was a trip unlike I've ever had before.
Yeah, Jacob was actually talking to us today. He's editing up some bear footage right now, and I was like, make sure you make something out of that hunt. You know,
yeah, it's cool.
Hunt. I mean, you got bear footage. I'm on a bear. I'm sure he got plenty of footage of it. And it's an amazing experience. That country, first time ever in that wilderness area. It's beautiful. First time on horses, just a lot of cool firsts that we want to show people. Yeah, so we're not going to kill anything in that video, but you guys, please go check it out. It was epic.
It was a fun weekend. And you know how weekends go. You basically get like a day and a half to hunt. Yep. And then dealing with the horses and all the awesome meals and everything. It ate up quite a bit of time, but we really did get after it all day Saturday.
Oh, yeah, dude.
So we got a solid hunt in on Saturday. But then Sunday, you know, I wouldn't say slept in, but we didn't set an alarm, and we woke up and just glassed from camp.
Yep.
Had another good breakfast, and then by the time you do that, you got to make the decision: are we staying one more day? Or are we going to start packing out? Because dealing with those horses, man, it takes a while.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to load. It took like 2 hours to load the horses,
at least,
and break down camp. And then we had steak fajitas before we left.
We had to eat all the food.
That was Keegan's rule.
Throw it away.
I ain't packing shit out, so you better eat it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to argue.
No. So, yeah, we woke up Sunday morning and we're like, well, do we make that 4-mile trek over there and then try to hunt a bear and then make the 4-mile trek back and then break
try
down
to get home tonight?
Yeah.
It was
and on the way in, we were like, well, we'll take a day off if we're just seeing bear left and right. And Keegan spent all day at camp Saturday. And we spent all Saturday morning glassing right from camp in these amazing high alpine basins. And we didn't see a single bear.
We saw a couple deer?
Yeah, a couple deer that morning. Jacob glassed so that's right. Jacob glassed Friday night, nothing. Keegan, we all glassed.
Saw a doe.
Yes, we all glassed Saturday morning from camp, which we're looking at some amazing shit.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing. And then so Saturday afternoon, we have to go 4 miles. We find bears. So we're kind of debating, well, is that one little basin of bears kind of worth sticking around and taking time off work for? Or do we break out and save time for when it gets better? And I mean, I guess looking back, we should have, because now bear season's kind of over. We're going to transition into deer, and we haven't killed a bear. So I don't know.
I'll still be bear hunting. You're carrying a bow.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be ready for a bear if we find one this weekend, and hopefully we do, because we got to kill a bear. We got to kill bears. We kind of talk about it like hard asses, so we better kill some bears. But that was a fun hunt. That was basically it for Sunday. We kind of glassed until, hunted around until about noon.
Well, then, before we left and packed up, we're like, oh, let's shoot some rocks.
Oh my gosh, yes,
and then that's how we found out something was going on with my gun, the one that we had hunted with all day Saturday. And granted, thank goodness you didn't shoot at that bear.
No kidding. Well, granted, we took that gun out the week before. Jacob did, was like re-zeroing, and everything was good. You shooting 2-inch groups at 200, so your MOA rifle, everything's looking good. We go on this hunt, which is 4 days later after Jacob was out shooting it, and we ended up shooting rocks. Like, hey, let's just play around. We didn't get to shoot at a bear, so let's make sure rifles are on and check dope charts and shit. So I get my rifle out, pick a rock at like 550, just smoke it. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all right, my turn. You lay down, shoot at 550. I got video footage of it, and I was like, Bob, you were 8 feet to the right. And he was like, what?
What are you talking about? That felt good.
Yeah, in the video, you're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, no joke. In? Yeah. 8 feet to the right, Bob. That's a big no-go. And you're like, all right, man, you shoot it. Did I make a mistake?
Yep.
And I get in same exact spot, dude. 8 feet to the right of that target. Perfect elevation. 8 feet to the right. And I was like, check your windage. Make sure it's at 0. And it was at 0.
Yeah. And so when Jacob took my rifle up there, he put it in the scabbard to ride on the horses.
Yep.
I pulled it out, and I noticed that my turret, the windage to the left, was like 3 or 4 MOA. to the left. So I just turned it back to 0. I figured, it just got bumped a little bit.
Yep.
And not thinking that like when it got put in or pulled out, it almost did an entire rotation.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend, if you ever find that on your turret, elevation, windage, whatever, put it back to 0, take out your bolt and bore sight it and look down that bore and line up your scope. And if it's not lining up, okay, something's not right.
It's a rotation off.
Turn it back to other rotation and figure that out before you go hunting.
I remember saying that up there. And
you did?
Yeah, I was thinking, no, not the bore sight thing. I was like, I wonder if it's a full rotation off.
Yeah, I remember you saying that too.
And you were like, no way, man. It was at 3 or whatever. And I was like, that would just be weird, right?
But how simple is it to take out your bolt and do a quick bore sight?
Was it that...
Oh yeah,
it sounds like it'd be easy to do, but was it that easy to tell when you were at home and you did that?
It was at home. I just picked a single tree that was like 50, 60 yards in front of my house. I laid down, I took out my bolt, and I lined it up on that tree down my bore. I could see it perfectly.
Yeah.
Looked in my scope, and it was off. Like I could tell that it was to the right.
Yeah.
I don't know, a foot or something.
Yep.
And so I cranked it all the way back to where it should be, or like the other way, the other rotation. Yep. And I looked down my scope and bore again, and they lined up perfectly.
That's exactly what happened. We can confirm.
Yep. Went to the range a week later. I was there on Sunday, and I was freaking smoking a 200-yard target. Right on, dialed. Didn't have to do shit.
So that's exactly what happened. In the scabbard. With the unlockable turrets on the Viper PSD Gen 2.
They don't lock. So, when you're putting it in and out of the scabbard case, it can easily grip it and just rotate it.
Yep.
And I just figured, it's just off a little bit. Make sure that it's on.
Wow. They do have like the indicators where, you can see that it's one rotation out, but at a quick glance, and if you didn't do it...
do they on our guns?
Yeah.
Or those scopes?
I do believe they do.
Because I'm trying to think, how would I know?
Yeah. I'm 99.9% sure they do have like an indicator. They have like a line. They have a line that's going like parallel like this. Mm-hmm. And if it's at that means it's one rotation up full.
Okay.
And then if you're all the way back down, it'll be flush.
Well, and I know some of the Vortex scopes, they lock.
Yes.
Which mine doesn't.
Yeah. Like the LHT that has lockable windage, not windage. It has a capped windage, which is nice. Now that we know that's a good, that's a good thing to have. And then they have the lockable, elevation turret, which is nice as well.
Yeah, so that was my experience, and that's the first time I've ever experienced something like that.
Me too, man.
Be off. I just figured, it's just off a little bit. I'll just put it back to 0. We're good to go. But nope, it did almost
a full rotation.
Full rotation,
which is wild. So, and then I was like, well, thank God I didn't shoot at that bear.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have hit it.
I wouldn't even hit it. Yeah, 8 feet's way too much. But maybe at 411, or if that nice bear came out at 250, I would have been 3.5 feet to the right, and it would hit him in the ham or something stupid, So thank God I didn't take a shot at a bear with that, or because we would have went down and checked blood. It would have been a long night if I would have took a shot at it and we didn't know what happened. We'd have had to trek down to that basin, check for blood, and then try to bolt out of there. But
and I just lent my rifle to Jacob. It got put in a scabbard. Those are two things that I don't really normally do, and then it was off. So just when that stuff's going on, make sure you check and do a quick bore sight.
Be careful. I wonder if there's something stupid like a piece of duct tape around it where it goes into scabbard. What do most people do with scabbards? If you guys are out there and you've run into this, I'm sure that somebody has ran into this situation going into a scabbard. What's an easy way to control that, or just keep an eye on it? I guess
you probably keep an eye on it. Get a scope that does lock the turrets.
Yep, it's got to be.
Be careful.
Yep. So that's it. That's that, and then. Just last weekend and last week, Robbie and Jacob, they went out Thursday through Sunday. Maybe it was Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday through Sunday. And, that was going through the headphones too. Sorry, guys. It's Bluetooth because I'm about to call Jacob for you guys. So I apologize. Just blowing your guys' eardrums out. So Jacob and Robbie went out and ended up seeing a lot of bears, actually, and taking a shot at one. Ended up with a couple misses. Misses happen. Robbie is getting his butt kicked this year.
I can attest to that, Robbie. If you If you're having like,
you want to call for counseling?
Yeah, you can call me because I've been there.
Dude, we
can talk about it.
Yeah, I've been there. My Mount Baker bear and then Stairmaster bear, I jacked up. So we've all been there. Hunters have all been there. Misses happen. But especially on bears, dude, they are weird.
Well, like I said earlier, man, seems like they never stop moving.
Yep.
And they're hard. They're tough as nails. They're hard to shoot. Even when you make a good, like I've seen a guy, one of our buddies actually spine a bear.
Yep.
And that sucker was still crawling around, dragging himself by his front, paws.
Zach's video? Dude, that thing is crazy.
Yeah, it smokes this thing with a 28 nozzler.
Yep.
It's rolling around, and it grabs itself up, pulls itself up on a log with his front paws.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, shit. Puts another one in it.
And just dumps him.
Yep. So, congrats to Zach, too. He's got a bear down.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Nice
congrats.
Chocolate. You trying to get Jacob on the other line?
Yeah, I'm texting Jacob right now, but you just reminded me, maybe if Zach's free, he can be live on the podcast and tell us his story, because at least someone's out there being successful.
Yeah, he's putting that new rifle to use. He's got the new Browning Speed X-Bolt.
Yes, dude.
In the 28 nozzler. And then, like Jeff said, him and his wife went out last weekend. They saw a bear and put a move on it, but I think Jeffrey's going to tell that story after he's done playing.
Yeah, I'm texting, Zach, see if he wants to jump on and tell us his story. I said, we're live on the podcast. Want to tell us your bear story? This is extremely live podcast right now. Jacob said, give me 10, so that Zach has 10 minutes. So, but anyways, yeah, Robbie and Jacob went out, and we're in a familiar spot to the P&, one of us P and Wild spots, and they get in, and right out of the get-go, he said they saw a really, really nice chocolate bear. They got to 400, and like I said, Robbie missed earlier in the season. We can't. Sorry, I'm talking out loud. Early in the season, Robbie missed at like 270 or something, and so Robbie kind of was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get close and make this one count." Right. So they're pushing in close in this nicer bear, and they blew him out. And sometimes that happens when you're trying to get close. You're pushing the envelope, scaring or blowing stuff out's going to happen. So it's either that's the price you pay for. Do I sit up right here and take a shot that I'm not super duper ultra comfortable with at 400, or do I push the envelope and try to get to 250? And that's really the gamble that you're playing, kind of like with your Stairmaster bear last year. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. We got to 380.
I could have cut off another 100.
We totally could have, and totally kicking ourselves in the butt because that situation happens.
Yeah, and then when you do miss, it's hard to get that confidence back, and that's really all it is. And I think it just takes, going to the range or shooting rocks or whatever. Because that trip, that second day with Keegan, I was shooting Jeff's rifle. We were shooting rocks out to 700 yards, and I think I got some confidence back. Just verified my zero with my gun at 200, and I'm shooting 3/4 MOA, 1 MOA on that Tika, so I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And the biggest trick is just go through your head, go through your steps, your parallax, your MOA, your natural point of aim, your breath. Just slowly pull that trigger and just have confidence.
We have an awesome podcast coming up. I reached out to the Modern Day Sniper. They are an awesome podcast platform. If you guys have not checked them out, please do. We're going to have Kaylin on next week, and we're going to talk about shooting and getting comfortable at shooting, and just kind of what we can do as hunters, things to think about, natural point of aim, parallax, all sorts of things, rifle canting, all these minor things that hunting situations kind of produce at a very common rate. Like Bob was talking about earlier in the podcast, having your feet way above your head. You're on a hill. What do? We're in that situation all the time. You can't really do anything about it. You can't dig
you're not at a damn range where you're sitting on a bench with sandbags.
Exactly.
These mountains are unforgiving, and they're hard to get comfy in.
Yep. And these situations arise, and we're going to have Kaylin kind of walk us through a bunch of different scenarios, tell us things to think about, tell us major things to think about, maybe things that you can get away with. We're just going to talk about shooting rifles, at long distance, maybe at 200, 300, 400, 500 yards, and then maybe go on beyond that, and just kind of pick Kaylin's brain. Everyone needs to hear things like this going into the hunting season. High buck is 15 days away as of right now, so we're going to have him on the podcast next week. Yeah, super stoked with that.
Extremely knowledgeable. He was a Marine sniper, I believe.
Yep, I think so.
And
I don't want to fuck that up this way. I don't know if it was a Marine, but I know he's a sniper of some sort.
I think he was in the Corps, but sorry if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yep. I don't want to say something wrong, but if he's not a Marine, whatever, we'll leave it. He'll introduce himself next week.
Sounds good.
So yeah, Robbie and Jacob were on, saw that bear, blew that chocolate out, and then kind of continue on their hunting trip. They had 4 days. Throughout the rest of that day, they got back on, or they spotted another bear. It ended up being a sow with a cub. They kind of just watched that thing for a while, and then moved along. And then on the way back out, they went back to that very spot that they spotted that chocolate.
How far away was that sow?
I don't know. Okay, we're gonna pause this story, and Zach is ready. So we're gonna hear Mr. Zach Ellis tell his story on his chocolate bear, and maybe we'll post, with his permission, we'll post his video on our Instagram, or maybe just his bear. So here's Zach. Let's cold call him.
Hello?
What's up, dude?
Hey.
What's going on? We are live on the podcast, and I figured you're one of the guys that we know who's actually killed something, so we might as well call you and get a cool story in.
Sounds good.
So congratulations, by the way, on that bear.
Thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead and tell us the story. I know you kind of had a shit show of a weekend, and with all that fog and all that stuff, and then you kind of went back in. But yeah, tell us a story on this thing.
Yeah, so this was probably my 5th or 6th trip since the opener into this spot. On the opener, I kind of bombed into there, only had like a half a day, but ended up picking up one bear on this hillside. I came at it from a different direction and bombed down, tried to get close enough, just never did. So since I saw that bear in there, I was like, okay, well, I need to keep coming back to this spot. And I just kind of kept making day trips in there. And we ended up getting in there one day with my buddy Robbie, who you guys know well as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw 3 bears that day. And Robbie was able to get a couple shots off on one big chocolate bear, but no hits on it.
It happens, man.
Yep, it does. And it was, I mean, it's still a killer morning having 3 bears all on this hillside. But once I saw that bear, I was even more dead set on getting back in there and getting after it. And so on that next Monday, I went in there before work, found that chocolate bear again, and he slipped into the timber like at 6:10, 6:15 in the morning, right after first light, before I could get set up to shoot. And I sat on him as long as I could until I had to leave to go to work, and he just never came back out of the timber. And then that following weekend, I went up there both Saturday and Sunday, and it was just fogged in to where I couldn't even see like 20, 30 yards in front of me. I just sat there waiting to hopefully get a window to glass across this creek drainage to this face where I'd been seeing all these bears, and never happened. And then luckily with my work schedule, I swapped to night shift in the middle of the week. And so I knew that I could get back up there Wednesday morning and hunt till noon, 1 o'clock before I'd have to head back home so I could get to work that night. And I got up there again, like right at first light, came around the corner to where I can finally start to glass. And within probably 5 to 10 minutes, I glassed that bear up. And I think I just saw it naked eye. I don't even think I had the binos on it. I was just kind of doing a quick scan with my eyes across the face.
Mm-hmm.
And he was straight down in the bottom towards the creek, right where that big chocolate was. And all I saw was bear, and I started running down to try and get close enough. And as I got down closer, I basically there's like a trail that wraps around, and I just dove straight off of it to cut elevation and get closer. And I knew that if I got below the rock where Robbie and I were set up to shoot from the previous weekend, I could cut about 100 yards off and get to that like 200 to 250 range.
Yeah.
And so I was just running down and just kind of keeping eyes on the bear. the bear just kept kind of roaming, across the hillside and then started going up and away from me. And so as I was gaining distance on the bear, it was putting distance on me. So I was trying to double time it to get down and get set up. And being solo up there bear hunting, my goal was to try and get the phone scope on it so that I could confirm a hit, confirm where I hit, confirm a miss, anything like that if I was able to get a shot. And
absolutely. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, and so it was a little bit of a cluster to try and get the spotter set up, get the phone scope on the bear, and then with a bear that's just constantly moving, keeping the bear in the phone scope, going back to the gun, checking the gun, trying to get comfortable, get a good rest, get all that stuff going. So it took me probably 3 or 4 tries of like get the phone scope on the bear, run up, get to the gun, lay down, try and find the bear. And then I'd be like, oh shit, he moved 10 yards, 15 yards. I know he's out of the phone scope. Let me go back, refind it, go back to the gun.
Wow. I got to say, I'm pretty impressed that you had the patience to deal with that all while knowing you have a bear within range. Because I would have been shaking and
we know,
not
Bob.
even...
You would have 5 bullets down range and be like, didn't get anything on footage.
Yeah, it was a challenge for sure. There was a couple times where I was just like, screw it, I'm just going to send it. But I just knew that I was going to feel a lot more comfortable if I was able to watch it back and everything, because he was getting further away. And I think by the time I got set up and was like finally had a comfortable spot to lay down, because I mean it's a steep face that I was trying to shoot off of, I was basically, I had the gun level, but I was my body was basically going up the hill.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were.
So super uncomfortable, but I was finally able to get a decent enough spot, and then I was just like, okay, the gun's ready. I just got to get this bear to stand still for 30 seconds so I can get him in the spotter and then glue down and shoot. And sure enough, he just gave me a perfect tiny little window where he was right at 303 yards and kind of quartered away from me just slightly. And I just put the dot right on the top of his back and let it fly. And I mean, it just blew his spine in half.
Just gave him the Nas.
Wow.
Yep. It was first time shooting an animal with the 28 Nosler. So I was pretty happy about how that went.
How do you what rifle are you shooting?
So it's the Browning Hells Canyon Speed. And it's the 28 Nosler. And then I was shooting 160 grain Nosler AccuBonds.
Damn, what the hell's that?
Yeah, have you chronographed that, or do you know the velocity coming out of the muzzle?
I mean, the box of ammo says that it's supposed to be right around like 3,300, but I haven't chronographed it.
Gotcha. And what did you think of the 28 on impact? Obviously, you hit spine, but how was it?
It did its job. I mean, that bear dropped and rolled, and then he kind of got stuck on a log and in some brush and kind of struggled around there for about 15 seconds. And then he was trying to climb up and over this log, but his back legs, I mean, he couldn't move them.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of on this log. And so then I shot a second time and drilled him kind of right below the head, kind of right in the neck. And that just put him down and done.
You and those damn neck shots, man.
Apparently they worked for me. I don't know.
Take what you can get, man, especially on that second shot. Just kind of get him out of his misery.
Yeah, exactly. And that second shot, I had no idea if he was still in the phone scope or if he'd rolled down or not at that point. But I just knew that I had to put another one in him. And luckily he had only rolled like 5 yards. So he was still in my screen of the phone scope. So after I shot him and he was laying there, I was able to look at the phone scope and I could just see the big ball of fur laying down next to the log. So I just sat there and watched him, make sure he never moved again.
Yeah, I watched the video and hearing your excitement was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you're saying, but you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
When it all comes together, man, you got that adrenaline dump. It's the best
feeling. That's what keeps you going back out there.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I keep trying to like play it back in my head, like actually playing the first shot back, but
blacked out.
I think I kind of blacked out like Bob.
There you go. It happens,
I laid down and I just had such a small window. Like I literally laid down, and put that dot right on his back and just touched it off. I never even laid there. I didn't think about it. I didn't even take a breath. It was just like, it's now or never. And yeah, I think there was a little bit of a blackout moment for me.
Dang, man, that's epic. Well, congratulations. Before I let you get back to the gym, is there anything that you could kind of help to motivate some people out there that are kind of struggling? Maybe like me and Bob.
I would just say, man, the berries are super ripe and super good. Obviously, in spots, as you guys know, like they're not perfect everywhere. But I mean, down where I was, the berries are just ripping right now. And
at what elevation? Could you give us that?
I was between 5 and 5,400 feet.
Okay, that's kind of like just what we were talking about up there in that Keegan trip, Bob.
And we had no berries.
And no, the Keegan trip we did just down the timber.
I mean, out in the open.
Yes, like not, exactly.
Not in the open, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that, I'm more on the south end of things, so I don't know if we just had, some more moisture or something down in there, but the berries are just super ripe. And I mean, I wouldn't have killed a bear in there if it wasn't for the time I spent in that same spot. Like that was the fourth different bear I saw on this same face.
Wow.
And I just kept going back, finally noticed how the bears were using that face, and then how I could use my terrain to cut the distance in order to be able to shoot. And so I think that was really the key is, from the time I spotted the bear to the time I pulled the trigger was maybe 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, I just ran down, I knew where I needed to get to, and then it was just a matter of finding the spot that I could shoot from comfortably. But, once you kind of find a spot that's holding berries and looking good, I would just keep hammering it because, the bears are going to be in there. It's just a matter of catching them in those little openings through that tall, gross brush that we have.
Yeah.
They can tunnel through all that stuff, and it's hard to catch them. But, the moment you do, it's pretty much game on at that point to go get them. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for jumping on and telling us the story. We had to have some success. Me and Bob were just just kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with something.
Oh, yours is coming soon. I can feel it.
I hope so. We're going to go out there and give her hell this weekend. But yeah, man, congratulations again. And with your permission, maybe we'll post your picture up on our stories tomorrow or on the feed or something and let people see this bear that we're talking about.
Yep, go for it.
All righty, man. Well, get back to the gym and go pump some iron or something.
Get swole, bro.
Yeah, get those gains, bro.
Gonna go get my sweat on.
All right, brother. Have a good evening.
All right, you too.
Later, bro. Man, let's get some success to get you amped up.
Well, he's totally right, man. Just find the damn berries.
I know, man.
Keep kicking that berry situation in the head, but it's true.
It is the truth, man. And like he said, he went in there earlier in the season, opening weekend with Robbie. They saw a nice bear in there, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to keep hammering and keep hammering this spot. And sure enough, on the fourth bear, he made it happen. Snuck in there, made a perfect shot.
Well, and he's been putting in the time.
Absolutely. Yep. Going before work. He said it was a 6th trip or something.
Fifth or sixth
trip in that same area. Finally made it connect. The weekend that I was at work, actually, Saturday and Sunday, he was in there in that spot 2.5 hours from home. And both Saturday and Sunday was just fogged in. He couldn't see 15 yards. Damn. And he sat there for 4 or 5 hours and then just went home. So he's putting in the effort, and then, it all came together on that 6th time. So just don't give up. If you're in a good spot and you have a feeling, keep hammering it. But back to our story with Robbie and Jacob. We're going to call Jacob now and have him talk us through what happened with this beautiful bear that we saw the footage of today, Bob.
Yeah.
Gosh dang it, that's a nice bear.
It's a heartbreaker.
It is, man, and we've all been there. But here we go. We're going to have Jacob tell the story on Robbie's... I'm going to keep saying it, but Robbie's...
His hunt.
Robbie's hunt. Yes, there we go.
That's all it is, man.
Here's Jacob. Hello, Hakabo.
Hello.
You are live on the podcast, so no profanity. We'd keep a really tight ship around here.
Why'd you call him Hakabo? What was that?
Jacob, welcome to the show. We kind of teed it up pretty nicely. I'll catch you up to speed really quick. You and Robbie went in. You had a nice bear right off the bat. You guys kind of pushed the limit on getting close because Robbie had just had a miss and was doing the right thing, trying to get close, and you blew him out. And then, the day goes on. You guys went in, sow with a cub, and then went back that evening to go get back on this, get in the area where that nice bear was that you just kind of sent us the footage of. And it kind of looks like that first bear may have been a little chocolatey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was reviewing the footage today, and not only is it chocolatey, but it's a really solid bear. It's got a big old butt on it. Looks like its belly's in the back end's dragging on the ground.
Dang it.
Yeah, but with that being said, when we got back up there, the second bear, which looks a lot darker, looks like just a straight jet black, must be a different bear. So that may be good news for us if we go back, that there's a couple bears running around in there. But
yeah, that they're not going to be too terribly far from where we're going to go spend 3 days either.
No, yeah, and I don't. Depending on how we're doing with the archery hunt, we potentially could go run in there for a little bit. And
absolutely. Kind of what I was thinking, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can stay up and chase deer, and if we're on them, or if we blow them out of the country, we can just transition this thing into a bear hunt and at least go check it out. But yeah, man, kind of catch us up to speed and talk us through. I hate to use I keep saying Robbie's miss, but I don't mean anything. I don't mean no harm by it. I mean nothing bad by it. We've all been there, so I know Robbie's going to listen. We're not picking on you, bud. We're just kind of maybe helping people out. Jacob, do you want to run through that evening? You glassed up this second bear in the same spot. Why don't you walk us through it and maybe give us some tips and pointers on how you would have attacked it the second time if you got to take it back?
I don't know if we would have necessarily attacked it differently. We kind of figured out a good route. There's like this table of buckbrush that we had to climb up onto to see the face where these bears were hanging out. So we had come back down the trail and get back to the spot, and it's like not even 2 minutes, and we're kind of moving because the buckbrush is so loud. You got to move super slowly just to make like not an obnoxious amount of noise. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of little pockets of openings here and there. So we get to kind of an opening, and it's about probably 400-ish yards from the wall if you drew a straight line to the wall. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I see a bear, and I'm like, Robbie, this bear came back before we knew that it potentially was a different bear. And it was same thing, just feeding on bushes. And I think it was feeding on, I don't really know exactly what they are. They've been called choke cherries. I think Chris called them choke cherries. I don't know exactly if that's the right terminology for them, but they were pretty thick in there. And I think that's what it was feeding on because it's hitting these bushes pretty hard. And we kind of go through that same thing of can we get closer? And we decided, Robbie tried to set up where we were because I think it was like 375, but the bear was consistently feeding right to left on his face from our perspective. And so we ended up moving closer, and we got to it. We ended up not really getting much closer yardage-wise because it had kind of been moving away from us. But I think we got to like 350, but got a better look, a better perspective of where the bear ended up popping out. So I will say though, after when I looked back at where the bear was, we probably could have set up in the same area. It just would have been a slightly longer shot, probably about 35 or 40 extra yards. So if you would rather, I think if you have the time and you'd rather just get really well set up, in this spot, it was up in the air whether Robbie could have gotten real stable or not with the buckbrush because the brush is high. So if you're kind of not up on a knob or somewhere above the brush, then you don't have a good view on the hillside. So, but we ended up moving forward. We're kind of running this downed log, and then we get to the end of it, and it had its big stump kind of roots were kind of grown out, and he ended up getting set up within the roots because he could stand and also get a rear rest standing on these rear roots.
Oh, he was standing when he shot?
he was standing when he shot, but he had
a rest. Yeah,
he had a really solid rest, but he was standing. So there's probably something to say that maybe laying down, he may have been a little bit more steady, but I don't know how comfortable he is shooting standing. I think he said he didn't practice standing at all. So, and it does add an extra element. But I guess if you have a rear rest and you're really solid, then it's just up to you not adjusting the natural point of aim of the rifle and adjusting it. So that could have been it. But when we finally got set up there, we took our time. I was just watching and editing the footage today, and I was talking through it. Hey, take your time. He was asking for updated on range. I think it popped out at 350 and then slowly came towards us. And I think by the end of it, he was at 335-ish, is what we figured. And then to Robbie, from my perspective, he was kind of behind brush, but I think to Robbie, he was completely clear. And so Robbie says, I'm going to take him. You ready? And he squeezed off the shot, and it went, I think, a few inches high. I was a little bit above Robbie, so I think it looks higher on camera. But I think probably 3 to 5 inches high is what it ended up being. So, and there's a ton of factors that could have played into that. I really don't know. He said he felt good squeezing off the shot, but it was kind of, as soon as that bear ran off, it was like, well, it's running off. It's not rolling and flipping like bears usually do when they get hit. So we weren't sure exactly. It kind of looked, it wasn't really running super fast. So Robbie was kind of like, maybe he did hit it, but then he didn't. So, yeah, it was a kind of the letdown of all letdowns after screwing up on the bear in the morning. But I don't think in that position we could have gotten any closer, because there was no more openings closer to the bear, and there was no places we could set up there. So, and I think 335 is a pretty reasonable shot, especially with the rifle setup and the practice that Robbie had taken. Just happened to miss. So.
Yeah, man, and that's the reality of hunting. Misses are a part of it. We have all been there, and if you haven't. You will. I promise, it's going to happen. Maybe not a catastrophic miss where it's a wound or something, but you're gonna be off your mark, and it just happens. Hunting's hunting, whether it's.
Yeah, it's not a piece of paper. You're not on a bench with sandbags. It's just way different when you're in the mountains on a moving live target.
Yeah. Jacob, before we let you go, anything as far as people heading out for this Labor Day? Any recommendations? I know Bobby and I have talked about the odd year for berries and the odd year for moisture and that super drought. But anything that you could recommend people heading out this weekend and trying to chase a bear or anything like that? Any recommendations?
I would say learning lesson from last week, if a bear's like cruising and you didn't get eyes on it, spend some time sitting on it, but maybe don't spend all day sitting on it. If the bear wants to be there, he'll be there. I think is the learning lesson. We knew that. I mean, we were just so like focused on just. I've had such a crazy bear season. Spent so much time chasing these things. It's like,
how many days do you have in hunting bear this year?
Oh, before I left for the Alpine, before I left for the trip that we went on with Keegan, I had spent 12 days, I think, and then so that was another 2 days, and then another 4 days. So I think like what was that, 18?
Yeah, so you're over half a month, and
wow,
we haven't notched the tag yet. And dude, that's just straight up hunting. There's no guarantees. You can bust your ass and hunt a month, and there's no guarantees. And then there's guys that can go out on a weekend and get it done. I mean, that's just it, man. And that's just why we love it, really.
We've experienced both sides of that.
Absolutely, we've bashed our head against a wall for a month and have nothing, and then we've gone out for a weekend day and killed 2.
And for me, it's pretty humbling, because I mean, the first 3 years I hunted bears, I killed a bear. Like 16, I had a spring bear tag, killed it in a couple of days. The next year, it was like the first time I was behind the rifle with you in one of your best spots, and that was like just a prime time to be out. So I got that done pretty quick, and then the following year, I spent I think 2 weekends. On the second weekend, I got a bear down. So it's definitely a humbling experience. A lot of it's been in new country this year, though, too. So this last trip, it shows because we were seeing bears. at the end of the day, the count, if those were 2 different bears, I saw 5 different bears. One was a sow and a year-old cub, which we didn't even think about shooting. But 5 bears in spots we know. It makes it like we're seeing bears.
So how far was that sow?
No, calm down, Bob.
It was cruising. I think we busted out of the brush, and then we were kind of paralleling it, and then I looked up, and it was probably 200 yards up the hill. I got some pretty good footage of it on the film here, and that baby bear is too damn cute. I couldn't do anything to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're seeing 5 bears in a weekend with in good country. I mean, that's a solid weekend. You guys had a shot opportunity. That's success in our books. Whether the bullet hit its mark or not, that's a successful hunt. I'm sure Robbie's taken home a lot of tips and kind of reassessing that. And I mean, all you got to work on is just shooting abilities, and that's all we can do really, and just be ready for the next time and hopefully capitalize on another opportunity. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but that's it, man. That's hunting. And all right, Jake, thanks for jumping on, and let's go shoot some bears in a couple days.
I'll see you this weekend.
All right, man. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Later, bro. All right, Bob.
All right, now we need to cover yours and Janie's side of the same hunt, really.
Yeah, really, the underline we have from that is kind of teeing up this weekend.
So they started over there on Thursday?
Yep, they started Thursday morning, and that's kind of when everything went down, was Thursday and Friday, and then they met us. We met them, or they met us, however you look at it. We met them over there Friday evening. And so after their rendezvous down there in some lower country, they went and decided to go up high and meet us. I already had a set in stone because I wanted to scout for deer, and I wanted to go into this this area where we've had a lot of success. We've seen a lot of bears in there. So I wasn't going to change my plan of attack. Kind of had multi reasons and just reasons to why I wanted to go in there. Scout for deer for one, shoot bears for 2. We've seen a lot of areas, and just take my wife into some of the most gorgeous country we've been in. So
has she not been in there yet?
Never.
What'd she think of it? Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, what you'd expect. Yeah. Just wow. Every corner we turn. Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Just, it's incredible, man. It's an incredible area. We live we're very spoiled to live in this state. I mean, we hate it for other reasons, but it sure is pretty. It sure is pretty. So yeah, that morning, all 4 of us, Jacob, Robbie, my wife, Janie, and myself, we were on this one glassing knob, and I kid you not, I was barely sit down for 10 seconds, and I had a group of 9 bucks.
$9.
Nine bucks.
I've been to this spot a handful of times, and I've never seen $9.
No, and they
Bachelored
were
up. Or
10 feet apart from each other.
Jeez.
And I would just remember saying, "Oh my God!" And they were all like, "What, giant bear?" And I was like, "No, 9 deer." And I couldn't even see frame or anything on them, so I just said 9 deer. And Jacob gets his spotter out. He has the Razor 65 millimeter, and that thing is wicked.
I haven't seen that one yet.
That thing is wicked. Really like that, actually. And compared to the 85, it's half the weight, half the size. It's just a wicked little spotter.
That's cool.
And Jacob gets the spotter on him, and he goes, "Oh, shit, nice bucks." And I'm like, "No, really?" And I was like, "No, I'm like hustling to my spotter and getting it all set up." And
mind shift.
Oh, yeah. I'm just like, okay, screw bears. I'm on bucks. And I have multi-season, and they're in an open unit for archery hunting. So I get the spotter on it, and the top 3 of them are just all studs, like 4-point, 140-inch plus, all of them. Even the 3-point's probably over 140.
That's a big 3.
Yeah, that one's 146 in the house. And just seeing him, and Jacob's like, "Dude, he's a twin to your 2017 deer."
It's a nice deer.
It's a twin with maybe better beams. And I'm like, no way he's got better beams than that, because that thing's got 24-inch mains, which is absurd. That's really long main beams. And I think he's right. And at the very end of they kind of like fork up, and at the very end on one